Few possessions reveal a person's financial life as honestly as their car. A house can be inherited, clothes can be thrifted into elegance, but a car sits in the driveway telling the truth: how much you earn, how much you owe, and how you think about money. As wealth grows, the role of the car changes completely. It begins as a burden you finance, becomes a tool you optimize, turns into a pleasure you indulge, and finally ends up as art you collect. Here is what your car looks like at every level of wealth and what each stage says about the driver behind the wheel. Level 1. The car you cannot really afford. At the first level, the car is a monthly payment with wheels attached. It might be a used sedan financed at a punishing interest rate or a brand new crossover leased because the salesman asked about monthly budget instead of total price. The owner often spends 15 or even 20% of their income keeping this car alive. The loan, the insurance, the fuel, the repairs that always arrive at the worst moment. The cruel irony is that people at this level frequently drive newer cars than millionaires do because the car doubles as proof of success they have not yet achieved. Every mile driven is a mile deeper into depreciation, and the trade-in cycle repeats every few years, resetting the debt clock each time. Level 2. The sensible used car. The second level begins with a realization: a car is transportation, not identity. The driver buys a reliable used vehicle, often a Toyota or a Honda with one careful owner and a boring color, paid for mostly or entirely in cash. It is not glamorous, and that is precisely the point. Insurance is cheap, parts are everywhere, and depreciation has already been absorbed by the first owner. This is the stage of spreadsheets and cost per mile calculations. People at this level often feel a quiet superiority at traffic lights, knowing that the gleaming financed SUV beside them costs its driver a week of work every month while their own car costs almost nothing but fuel. Level 3. The comfortable new car. At level 3, money has arrived and the driver finally buys new without financial pain. The car is a well-equipped family SUV, a solid German sedan, or a capable electric vehicle purchased with a large down payment or outright. The buyer chooses it for comfort and safety rather than status. Heated seats, driver assistance, a warranty that makes repair bills irrelevant. The monthly cost is now a small fraction of income, which changes the emotional relationship entirely. The car is no longer a source of anxiety, but a quiet convenience, like a good mattress. This is arguably the healthiest level of car ownership, where the vehicle serves life instead of consuming it. Level 4. The first luxury car. Level 4 is the reward purchase. After years of discipline, the driver walks into a showroom and orders the car they used to photograph as a teenager: a Porsche, a Mercedes with too many letters after its name, a Range Rover in a color that requires confidence. The price would fund a starter home in some towns, but at this level, it no longer threatens financial security. The pleasure is real. The engine sounds like an event. The leather smells like achievement, and strangers look twice at intersections. Yet, a new anxiety appears: door dings, curb rash on the wheels, and the discovery that an oil change now costs what a full service once did. The car has become a possession to protect rather than merely to use. Level 5. The toy in the garage. At the fifth level, one car is no longer enough because different desires deserve different machines. Next to the sensible daily driver sits something impractical and wonderful: a convertible for summer evenings, a vintage muscle car, a track-focused coupe that has never seen a grocery store. The toy is driven a few thousand miles a year, washed by hand, and discussed at length with anyone who will listen. Money at this level buys the ultimate automotive luxury, which is separation of purposes. No single car has to do everything, so each car can be exactly what it is. Weekends gain a new ritual: the slow drive with no destination, taken purely because the machine makes the driver happy, and that happiness is the entire justification. Level 6, the garage becomes a lineup. Level 6 turns plurality into a system. There are now 4, 5, 6 cars, each with a role. The chauffeur-driven sedan for the city, the SUV for the mountain house, the grand tourer for long trips, the electric runabout for errands, the exotic for Sunday mornings. A car enthusiast at this level knows dealers by first name and receives allocations for limited models before the public ever sees them. Costs stop being counted per car and become a household line item: storage, insurance for the fleet, a detailer on retainer, a mechanic who makes house calls. The cars no longer signal wealth to strangers, they organize it, the way a wardrobe organizes occasions. Level 7, the investment grade collection. At the seventh level, cars quietly cross the border from possessions into assets. The collector buys a limited Ferrari not only to drive, but because only a few hundred exist and the waiting list is a decade long. Values are tracked like a stock portfolio. Cars are stored in climate controlled facilities, and some are bought at auction over the phone without ever being seen in person. Provenance matters now. Matching numbers, documented ownership, erasing history that adds zeros to the estimate. The strange result is that the better the car, the less it gets driven because every mile subtracts from the value. The collector begins to feel less like an owner and more like a custodian holding the car for the next generation of buyers. Level 8, the private collection. At the summit stands the private collection, a purpose-built gallery where 50 or 100 significant automobiles rest under museum lighting. There is a full-time staff of mechanics and historians, a workshop that can fabricate parts for cars whose factories closed before the war, and a private track, or an annual invitation to the great concourse events of the world. The collection has a theme and a thesis, telling a story about racing history, a single mark, or the evolution of design. Money is no longer the point, access is. The rarest cars cannot simply be bought, they must be offered, and sellers choose collectors the way universities choose students. The garage has become an institution, and like the finest institutions, it will outlive its founder. What the garage really tells us. Seen together, the 8 levels trace a curious arc. The car begins as a financial trap, becomes a rational tool, blossoms into joy, and finally transforms into heritage. The happiest drivers are rarely at the extremes. The person struggling with payments envies everyone above, while the custodian of 100 masterpieces sometimes envies the kid at level 5 who simply drives his one imperfect toy every weekend without checking its auction value first. The lesson hiding in every garage is the same. A car improves your life most when it costs a small share of your wealth and delivers a large share of your delight. Whatever level you occupy, the goal is not to own the car everyone admires. It is to own the car that never owns you.